This Sundowns team has been winning basically the league for the last 3 seasons. They've been winning 1 trophy a season. You think if this special group of players, if they never have a season where they win the league, they win the Champions League, they pick up a domestic cup, do you think they will ultimately, as great as they've been, they could potentially go down as underachievers when you look at the potential they had?
I think for me, the loss in the Champions League, for me, that loss against Kaizer Chiefs in the Nedbank Cup, how he started the season with the draw against Tupatela and Chippa United, raised a lot of eyebrows in my opinion. But for me, I think he's competing against a style of play, which is the shoeshine in piano. I think that's his biggest opponent. His biggest opponent is not Pirates and Chiefs or winning the league or the Champions League. I think it's the style of play.
There are certain elements that you always find in a Sundowns team, but each coach will bring their own. Like Rhulani had his own patterns of play and all of that. Ito had his own, whatever, right? And I feel like sometimes when we talk about shoeshine and piano, for some fans, I feel like they wanted to look exactly like what Rhulani's team looked like.
And what is this shoeshine and piano? Like shoeshine and piano in simple form is something similar to what a tiki-taka is and total football is. So it's a combination of 3 styles of play. It's tiki-taka, it's total football as well as German transition. I think Cardoso is a very good coach. Let's start there. I think we need to give credit to Flemingbeck. I think he broke the market by bringing in a player from the Portuguese Premier League. I think for us to even bring a player from that space, to bring in Rebeiro, Marcelo Allende, he's done an exceptional job in my opinion. But my thing is, even when he came to the club, I had this feeling that he's not the right coach for the club. Because when you look at Rhulani, there was periods under Rhulani, even I, for myself, I'm a scholar of Rhulani ball, 1,000 passes, a chameleon. But there were periods where I said, I was honest even with him, I said, it looks a bit robotic. It looks a bit robotic. Losing Rhulani was a big, I felt the pain. I think I carried that pain for the longest time because when I was having a conversation, even with the family, it felt like death.
Defensively, I'm not convinced with Sundowns. And 2, the lack of options every time they meet like a challenge where a team comes, because teams are learning what Sundowns is doing. It's been years of them dominating and people are coming up with plans how to stop Debza from playing, how to do this, how to do that.
Today's episode is brought to you in partnership with Sourcefin. Okay, Sharp, before we kick it off, let me put you on game real quick. Joe, you know that feeling where you have a big deal lined up, mara you have a money problem? Relax, Sourcefin has your back. Whether it's a tender, purchase order, or you're waiting for an invoice to pay out, Sourcefin works with SMMEs and can have you covered in 48 hours. So relax, it's in the description here episode 2, tap a link and apply now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the State of Football, where the game meets opinion, memory, and insight. Bona Joe, it's not personal, it's just football. Mara, if we nkile chest trepe, kopana comment section, lukisa. Have a very special episode loading vandaag. I'm your host, Thabo Mphelo. This is actually our first episode with our new partners, Sourcefin. They show value in terms of what we're doing, which we appreciate. So shout out to Sourcefin. Lelona Jensko Hai, if olpara la di tender or udilaga purchase order or onali invoice ezlungura so patele mar you need the funding poma 48 hours. Yango description tepang linki. Now, that's out the way. Mboza.
Hola.
I'm not. Not in. Today, we have special guest.
Arvutile
Ndwana, football analyst, strategist, technocrat, creative director, a man who has very many hats, very talented, personally, favorite analyst when it comes to local football by far. Shout out, Lindo Pep. How you doing, my good sir?
Wow, guys. Jesus, man. Lord have mercy. Number 1.
Yes.
What a beautiful podcast that you guys have.
Dog.
There's a reason why I'm here. By the way, this is my first podcast also.
Yeah.
I've never actually done a podcast.
For real?
Yeah.
Sure.
I've never actually sat down with people.
Yeah.
And it's always about me, 90 minutes or radio, or I'm hosting a TV show. Other than that, greeting to your viewers. Other than that, that is strip.
Real recognizes real. You hear because Nanya, we think we dope. So let's go, man. I think without even wasting too much time,
Yeah.
PSL season. We are 3rd of the season in. Sundowns have played 10 games.
Mhm.
We look at the log table. Mamelodi Sundowns is number 1. Number 2, Rutgers Kukune. Number 3, Rutgers Pirates. And I think it's very important to point out that Downs have played the most, 10.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Downs have, Pirates have played the least in 7 games.
Mhm.
And games in hand don't mean points, but Pirates win their game in hands, they first.
Yep.
In a nutshell. Number 4, Durban City.
Mhm.
Gavin Hunt is doing an incredible job.
Yep.
Shout out to Gavin. He's actually a friend of the show.
Yeah.
And 5, the mighty Kaizer Chiefs. Re tlo fihla ra.
Yeah.
Re tlo fihla. Let's relax.
Yeah.
I think ke batla ho iqala ko Downs gents ne. 10 games in, start of the season. Le bona jwang so far in terms of Mamelodi Sundowns? What do you think? Actually, I don't even want to put in my thoughts in it.
Yeah.
Mpho, e re ke iqala ka wena. How do you assess Mamelodi Sundowns this season so far?
I mean, look, I think you would have seen, like in the previous episode, I was like trying to play like devil's advocate, trying to be positive, trying to see, because my thing is this, ne? There's a few
exactly
things I
that.
want to say about Sundowns. Ne? I felt like we were being too harsh on them, because if we consider everything, they didn't have a preseason. All the things we've heard, they didn't have a preseason. They lost their best attacking player, you know. And I also felt like people have developed expectations that maybe are not realistic. Like Sundowns is not allowed to have a bad game, you know. They must play well, dominate every game, win every game, you know. And I thought, Miguel Cardoso, yes, let's just be patient. Hey, but I don't know, man. Since the last episode, I mean, the few games, the Arrows game, it's I don't know, and that's why we've got Lindo here, because
Yeah, to be honest with you, now personally, I don't know how to, because I was actually thinking about it while I was coming here to say, it's been 14 games,
Yeah.
you know, not more than 4 losses, a couple of wins,
Yeah,
a couple of draws as well. I think for me, the loss in the Champions League,
yeah,
for me, that loss against Kaizer Chiefs in the Nedbank Cup,
yes,
how he started the season with the draw against Tupatela and Chippa United raised a lot of eyebrows, in my opinion. But for me, I think he's competing against a style of play, which is the shoeshine in piano.
Yes.
I think that's his biggest opponent. His biggest opponent is not Pirates and Chiefs or winning the league or the Champions League. I think it's the style of play, because if you understand that club and the culture of that club, they are deeply rooted into this sophisticated tactical approach, you know, more especially from an organization perspective, the type of players that Mamelodi Sundowns brings, how the team plays, you know, how the team trains, how the players carry themselves, how the club is, you know. We are more like a La Masia. Pirates, we normally say that Pirates as the history, Chiefs have the fans, and Sundowns has shoeshine in piano.
Yeah.
And what is this shoeshine in piano?
What is?
You know, like shoeshine in piano in simple form is something similar to what a tiki-taka is and total football is. So it's a combination of 3 styles of play. It's tiki-taka, it's total football, as well as German transition. You know, because the piano is fingers being closer together. You know, how players move, how they intricate the short passing movement. The shoe needs to always shine, meaning clean passes. You know, and stuff like that. So how we build out from the back in terms of patient build up, finding those progressive passes in midfield. How our number 10s play. That's why in Ngihlezi ngisho ngithi uTebza is the perfect player to carry the piano. Ipiano yaliyaqapha ikhera noma bani. Number 1, you need to be a complete player. What is a complete player? A player okwazi ukuphasa ngeboth feet. You understand? Technical in terms of basics, you know, how you receive the ball, in terms of your passing range, aerial threat, how you dominate your position. You understand? So for me, you're talking about Tebza. Tebza is a perfect example of a player that carries the piano.
Yeah.
And you need somebody to play the piano.
Of course.
You understand?
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
you're talking about Abu Marcelo Allende, and you need people that can dance to the piano. And you're talking about now Nuno Santos, you're talking about Abu Rebeiro, Abu Mshishi, Mabum Kuli. So those are players that know how to dance to the piano. And that's why, but it's the shoe, it's the shine, it's the piano, because it's closer. If you understand, even the analogy is that the reason why they are open is for them to actually, you know, so I think that's what shoeshine in piano is in simple form.
But can I ask you this, Lidone? Because my difficulty is, I mean, I've watched Sundowns since like the late 90s with like your Ted Dumitru.
Yeah.
And I feel like there are certain elements that you'll always find in a Sundowns team, but each coach will bring their own, like Rhulani had his own patterns of play and all of that. Peter had his own, whatever, right? And I feel like sometimes when we talk about shoeshine and piano, for some fans, I feel like they wanted to look exactly like what Rhulani's team looked like, right? So what I want to ask you this, in terms of what you're seeing now with Cardoso, do you see it as a deliberate intention to move away from shoeshine and piano, or do you think it's just bad implementation of shoeshine and piano?
I think Cardoso is a very good coach.
Yeah.
Let's start there.
Yeah.
I think we need to give credit to Flemingbeck. I
Yes.
think he broke the market by bringing in a player from the Portuguese Premier League. I think for us to even bring a player from that space, to bring in Abo Rebeiro, Abo Marcelo Allende, he's done an exceptional job in my opinion. Also, I have to mention that Miguel Cardoso is an exceptional coach.
Of course.
And from what he's done in the history, speaks a big game even in interviews. But my thing is, even when he came to the club, I had this feeling that he's not the right coach for the club. You know, and one of the reasons why is because I knew how the club is in terms of fan base management and how the people around the club move. You know, they always say at the club, the Chiefs can have the fans.
Yeah.
We will hear bazolfuna so baphaza solcabuza bazophuma bajulukile. And that's what we've always prided ourselves. If you listen to the old interviews got Goldfinger, he will tell you very harshly on TV that they will look for the ball, we will make them run. So for me I felt that when Orlando Pirates coach left, Jorge Rivera, I thought Miguel Cardoso would have been a perfect coach for Pirates because he's a coach that plays percentage football. And sometimes percentage football, it puts you in a space where when your best players are not performing, you need the system. And I feel that that's what he doesn't understand at Sundowns, that it's a team and players that we've brought into the club that rely on a system to win football games. And Mangiti system, we're talking about the tactical sophistication of the club and an implementation of tactics. Because for me, what I wanted to see from Miguel Cardoso in the earlier days when he came was tactical variation. I wanted to see how the team is when he plays with a back 4, back 3, when you play with a single pivot, the double pivot with 3 number 10s, with 2 wingers that go wide or come inside. So for me, I've only seen one dimension, which has made his game very predictable, lacks creativity. The players, when you watch them, they look very average, in my opinion. And some of the players that we have at Sundowns are the most technical, Spetama technician. And the specific reason why we signed those players, because Sundowns, for example, or shoeshine and piano, a positional based game, or in Spain, where you need the first principle and the first detail is kumele ukwazi ukuphasa ngenyawo zethu bheka mamela ngiyayibona nasespain nasekasi masebhucwini bewutshele ukuthi ntwana bheka some of the best players akwazi ukudlala nga-both feet. And also the biggest quality in all of those things, away from the fact that you can pass, you can shoot, is read the game, interpret the game. And some of the qualities that Mamelodi Sundowns players have are that we've got players that have an ability of interpreting and reading the game. So for me, while I was watching him, I thought to myself, yes, we are scoring goals. Yes, we look a little bit quicker in terms of arriving in the final third. Yes, we are creating goal scoring opportunities. But like I said to you, in games of consequence, I wanted to see a tactical variation. I wanted to see us playing in 3 ways. And in that way, I wanted to see a team that plays through the opponent. I wanted to see the team that plays around the opponent. And I wanted to see the team that plays over the opponent. You understand? And for me, when we speak about Pirates, that's exactly what I'm going to talk to you about. When I speak about Adeslam Wadu, the things that I have identified. For me, if he coaches a team that plays on a transition, a team that plays percentage football, a team that wants to arrive in the box as quick as possible, just like how Pirates plays, just like how Kaizer Chiefs plays. At Sundowns, we don't play like that.
Okay.
At Sundowns, it's more of a patient build-up. We want to drag the opponent. We've got certain points of attack. And the first point of attack at Sundowns is central, not wide.
Yeah.
And the So that's the challenges and what I'm noticing as a football analyst, to say we need a tactical variation at the football club. And I think that's why he was brought in, because when you look at Rhulani, there was periods under Rhulani, even I, for myself, I'm a scholar of Rhulani Paul, 1,000 passes, a chameleon. But there were periods where I was honest even with him. I said, it looks a bit robotic. It looks a bit robotic. At Real Madrid, they say that the fans would never ever accept sitting for 2 minutes and not having a goal scoring opportunity. And for me, sometimes when I was at the stadium, I felt I've been sitting too long without saying, hey.
What's going on?
And when Coach Mangoba came, I did not like the statement, but I understood where he's coming from, where he said, we need to arrive in the box a little bit quicker. Because sometimes football is also about that. It's also about entertainment. I also want to be entertained amongst the stadium. I want a team that creates opportunities. I want a team that is dangerous in and around or closer to the box. And I felt like at times maybe bringing in Uthembi Nkosi Lodge, those were the elements that he was looking for. He was looking for a player that is dangerous in playing closer to the box, a Mabasa kind of a player, players that are decisive in those areas, where he would isolate certain positions, because in football you can't close everywhere. So he knew that, okay, where do we want to open? We want the space behind. That's why even no screamer, when he built shoeshine and piano, this is what Rhulani understood. There's something that they call in Italy the tranquista,
Yes.
which is more of an attacking midfielder, a player that plays in between the midfield and the strikers. And in simple English form, they're just attacking midfielders. And the perfect example was Umshishi at Mamelodi Sundowns.
course, yeah.
That's why he will be a god, because he's a player that masters how to play behind the midfield, in front of the midfield. The only thing that he doesn't have that I felt is a quality that sometimes we needed, that Nkosi Lodge had, is the run behind the defense. That's the most important run in football, because immediately defense, it's anybody. Then now you're getting into a space where we are dangerous. We are creating opportunities. The goalkeeper is starting to make saves, which is, I think, excites the fans. But from a technical perspective, I feel that the club now, when I'm watching, I'm thinking, okay, this guy is not really a bad coach, but he's at the wrong club, because I think his biggest opponent is the style of play.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we had this conversation in terms of Cardoso, the fans, I think in the previous episode. And Mpo, you got quite a bit of stick because Mpo mentioned stats. But if you look at the stats, right, they support Cardoso in terms of wins versus Rhulani in the same period of their coaching at Mamelodi Sundowns, you know. So in terms of from wins, but what the Mamelodi Sundowns fans are clear about is what you say. We want to win in a certain way. We don't just want to win.
Sure.
So if you're not winning and we're not dominating, we're not looking good, the coach is, you know, and I think he's in trouble, because I don't see how you change that. From a philosophy perspective, I don't think he can change. That's how he coaches, that's how he plays. So do we think that he makes it for the rest of the season? How and what does success look like for Cardoso? I mean, already the game yesterday, and I want us to get into the game yesterday. What went wrong with the game yesterday? Mamelodi Sundowns got knocked out of the net bank by Kaizer Chiefs. Mamelodi Sundowns now got knocked out of the Carling Cup. Now we have the league, we have the Champions League. So what went wrong yesterday in terms of the Carling Cup, in your perspective, Lindo, when you were watching the game? And also, what does the future look like for Mamelodi Sundowns from a coaching perspective?
Interesting question. That's why I said losing Rhulani was a big. I felt the pain. I think I carried that pain for the longest time, because when I was having a conversation, even with the family, it felt like death. Losing Rhulani at Sundowns, because at the stadium, when you were there, it's not just. You know what? I need to put this very clear, and I hope I'm not controversial with this. What that guy brought to Mamelodi Sundowns is more than just style of play. People don't understand this. When you go to the stadium, you felt the soul of the club. And you felt like you wanted to be there. You know, for the longest time, we've had the dominance of the Orlando Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs from a fandom perspective, from organization and all of the great things that the Soweto teams are doing. But I think what Rhulani brought is something that I can't even put into words. And I felt like when Rhulani left, we lost that. When you're at the stadium, you feel like you're watching a movie. You're not at the stadium. Most people are not entertained when they're watching Mamelodi Sundowns. And for me, I was starting to even question this, what is this shoeshine and piano? Are we really understanding? I started questioning even myself to say, do I really want this? Do I genuinely want to watch short, quick passes, they're keeping the ball where we don't create opportunities and all of those things? I know that recently we haven't been creating, but I was sitting and I'm thinking to myself, okay, you know, but watching yesterday's game, just to get into yesterday's game, not to be too long, is I felt like the first 20 minutes, Mamelodi Sundowns really looked good. I thought we looked really, really good. No, we were flowing. I feel like the team is really good. We've got a really good team. I feel like there's certain players that we need in that team. I, for one, no one can convince me that the 8 and a number 10 needs to be a complete player. I feel that modern football has made us understand certain qualities of players. Yeah, to say, this is his profile as a football player. So that tells you a limitation. I believe that number 10 and number 8 needs to be special players. One winger in every team needs to decide the game, needs to have an X factor. And those things are very crucial into football. That's why Rebeiro came into South Africa and did what he did. We released 15 players before the start of the season. And for me, releasing Nkosi Lodge was a big show me another player right currently at Mamelodi Sundowns who's better than Nkosi Lodge in terms of playing closer to the box. No, I know there's certain players that have other qualities. But another player other than Rebeiro now who had the quality of playing closer to the box, ale angwenye iphethe ibhaskiti eligcwele ama-fruits amaningi. He's got he's got a red carpet pass.
Yeah.
He's got a finesse.
Yeah.
He's got a dink pass. He's a dribbling wizard. He's quick also in the box. He knows how to make the right decisions. Yes, maybe in terms of form and all of those things, but Uluochete is his best.
Yeah.
I thought when he came to Sundowns, I thought we are complete.
Yeah.
And for me, when I was watching the game yesterday, that's exactly what we needed, I guess. I felt like we had the passing precision. I thought that we were moving the ball a little bit quicker. I thought the shape is good. I thought defensively we looked very solid. I thought we won 1v1 duels. But I thought we needed dribbler. I thought we needed X factor. I thought we needed someone who's with le talent. Le talent.
Someone who can decide the game.
I felt like we needed that.
Yeah.
Le talent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Best penetrate and ngidlala 1-2 outside the box shiny. I felt like we needed that. We needed something that we can't coach.
Yeah.
And I felt that that's where we lost the game.
And Nuno, what do you think he gives you?
Special player.
Above
above the league.
Hey!
Above the league.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think actually now you mentioned Nuno, let's get into the new signings at Mamelodi Sundowns.
Yeah.
Ne? I want to start with the local lads.
Mhm.
We had Basadien,
Mhm.
Litsiki,
Yeah.
Mpo, Kalelo and Njaka.
Mhm.
What do you think of both in terms of what they can give to Sundowns, and also if I think from a Basadien perspective, I think we also need to, because he was a regular
Yeah.
playing week in, week out. Now he's struggling to get game time.
Yeah.
So what's your view in terms of what Basadien's future at Mamelodi Sundowns looks like and what he gives the team? And the same in terms of Utsiki. First, let's start there.
Yeah. Look, I'll be honest. I don't know much about Ziki. I mean, I've read up on him,
Yeah.
played in the US and that, but I don't think I know enough about him as a player. You know, I think I've got an idea. I think he's an attacking midfielder, and you know, I
That's
just
about it. Yeah.
that's all I know about him. You know, when it comes to Basadien, for me, I think it's a good signing. You know, and I think if we just have a bit of patience. Because I think for me, what Basadien can do, I think he can bridge the gap. I think you've got Divine Lunga, who I think defensively is probably better than Aubrey, right? But you've got Aubrey, who's, my gosh, maybe not the strongest defensively, but what a baller, you know?
Was
You know?
Paulo opening face?
Yeah, I'm not. And I think Basadien can bridge that gap, you know? I think he can, if Divine is your best defensive left back and Aubrey is your best ball playing left back, I think Basadien slots in somewhere in between because I think
balance.
he's a bit more balanced. I think he needs to settle into the team, and I think he'll do well. I don't know what you think.
Maybe Basadien first. I think he offers us tactical variation. I think
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
using that word too much.
Yeah.
It's because he offers you different element.
Yeah.
I think at Sundowns we want, and actually this is a very interesting conversation. I was listening to Gavin Hunt. I don't know if he was in this podcast.
Yeah.
He was talking about the quality of fullbacks that he likes.
Yes.
And I've always believed in that. I've never seen fullbacks as people that initiate attack. I've always seen fullbacks. Some of the best fullbacks I've played with were midfielders. Because for you, the first principle of being a fullback is to know how to interpret the game. But the second one is dealing with the first ball and the second ball.
Yeah.
So most of the time, football doesn't play in fullback positions. So that's why you need a midfield thinking like player. That's why when Pep was really analyzing the game and this inverting came, the thinking was, how do we actually bring the midfielder, the winger of the opponent inside so that we can always free the line for a 2v1 situation? Because every time line Modlala is a 2v1 situation. It's not necessarily a 1v1 situation. So every time when you invert a fullback, you have that quality of the winger needs to decide. Do I follow him or inside in midfield? If I follow him, I'm creating a free player. If I don't follow him or receive I1, he can drive into midfield. I feel that that's the quality that Basadien adds at Mamelodi Sundowns. He gives you the tactical variation. You can use him on the outside. You can use him on the inside. But also, you can actually use him when you want to change the system in the game.
Yeah.
Where the formation, yes, is a 4-2-3-1. In position of the ball, it becomes a 3-4-3. But also, you can use him as a third centre back.
Yeah.
You can use him as a deep crosser, sometimes out wide, where now the time is 65, 65th minute in the match. It's 1-1, and you need a ball in the box. You've got to Peter Shaluli. He's the perfect ball. There's no player at Sundowns that has a delivery like Basadien. He's the one player that can pick up a pinpoint pass. We call it a pass, not a cross. So when you bring him into Sundowns, you consider those things. What value is he bringing into this football team? When they asked me about Basadien when he came, I said he walked straight into the team. But I need to consider the fact that I love Aubrey. Right, but I see Opri Mina more as a midfielder, more as a regista, a creative one who can recycle the ball, make sure that we can keep the shape. The similar job that Watu Marcelo Allende is doing. I'm a kulma ngotsi kulma boss. Do you want me to tell you who's similar to? Do you want me to tell you who's similar to? You remember Thulani Israel?
Yes.
At Ajax Cape Town. Cream.
Cream de la creme.
Hey!
Oh. For me, in football, there's no bigger nickname than that. Yeah, gunabo general, gunabo ndwang, gunabo tsiki. There's no big name. Ebona bathi cream.
Aywen.
I was really cream. You know when they say cream?
Yeah.
Phela le ntwana le yana bathi usukuyiqanda le. Yazi Soweto ngakanani?
Sure.
Bayokubiza cream yase Soweto.
Yeah. Fair.
The only thing is that Usirero didn't play for Chiefs and Pirates, which is what Uthembazwane Mshishi will experience when he retires. He will never get godlike treatment.
Yeah.
I said to Mbule when he signed to Orlando Pirates, I said to him, my boy, if you have 1, 2, or 2 good seasons, you will get godlike treatment. And unfortunately, Mshishi will never experience that. Unfortunately,
I can't wait to get to Pirates. I've always wanted to discuss this Pirates with Lindo Joe. Like,
you know what I mean?
I can't wait.
Let's move in there.
Yeah.
I think we got the gist. So I can't wait. Based on your analysis, I can't wait to watch Sigi play. Now we go to the overseas lads. Gents, Mamelodi Sundowns went to the Primeira Division in Portugal and signed 2 players who were regulars in their team. Acho. Like, I don't know, what does that mean from South Africa? Because we always want our players to go overseas. Like, that's what we think. Like, hey, Ebza must go, Rele must go, or whatever. Now we have Mamelodi Sundowns bringing these players to South Africa. First things first, we obviously haven't seen Miguel play, that much, right? We haven't, unless Rolo Shevadi clips and whatever. Nuno, you already said, cut above the rest. Yeah. And you can tell, like, umnati.
Passing his son. Both feet accurate.
But how do you? What problem does he solve? Because I don't think he solved the Rebeiro problem. Right?
Yeah.
He's not much of a ball carrier. He's not much of a. So let's say, obvious Tebza ke boss. Sorry Tebza, sorry. Umita bang Ferrero Rocher. What do you say?
Ferrero Rocher. Umdali piano. Expensive chocolate.
Sorry Allende. Does he fit in as a 10? Do you play a box midfield? What do you think is the best way to get the best? From what you've seen, how do you get the best?
But that's what I've been saying. The tactical variation. Modern football has put us in a space where we can't even speak about one pattern of play or one style of play, basically. Because for me, we can use them different. But you are right. I agree with you. It doesn't solve the Rebeiro problem, but it offers us a completely different element. Because now you are saying to the wingers or the striker, run, my brother.
I'll find you.
I
will find you. Renas, movement there, how?
Move up.
I'll find you.
Yes.
Izolo kune pass Aisha saw.
Yeah.
He passed. He doesn't. You enlarge, right? What do you do? What do you call this? It's what do you call it? Closing, like in sports science, when you do this.
Contract.
I think so, and then when you enlarge, he doesn't. Pass. No,
I'll keep.
And it's a 30-meter pass I'm talking about. That's why I said 2 weeks ago, some of the best number 10s in this country are foreign players, in my opinion. Because even in Europe, if you can study the culture of European clubs, they hardly ever have an African player as a number 10. It's very rare.
Yeah.
Because if you understand the landscape of African football and South African football, is that we come from disadvantaged background. We are very selfish in terms of that space. It's always about glory.
Yeah.
And number 10 shouldn't always chase glory. You understand?
Selfless.
You need to be selfless. You need to have a mentality of a breadwinner. Also, another thing, you can speak Tiko Modiso, who I love, role model Liam. You can speak about Tim Nkosi. I'm speaking about giants here.
Yeah.
Most of those players struggle to play as a number 10 earlier, and there's a reason why. It's because of lack of development. They started playing as a number 10 when they started getting proper coaching, when they started playing also with players that understood the style of play. Understand? And that's what I felt when I was watching people like Abomtu, and I thought to myself, some of the big 3 clubs, they need to maybe get a Nuno Santos.
Yeah.
That's the kind of number 10, in my opinion, that breaks. He's the player that, firstly, for you to be a number 10, you must play with both feet. And who left no right melafani.
Yeah.
Kumelanga ube ne-difference
Yeah,
between who left no right. In terms of passing ability, you need a variation in terms of your passing. Kumele ukwazi ukushaya red carpets, dink 30 meter, 10 meter pass. You need to know how to take shots outside the box. You need to be a technician in terms of set piece delivery, in terms of free kick, I'm a set piece and all of those things. So for me, I've always looked at our players and I thought, he's a very good player, but is he complete? And for me, ngicela umuntu angangiconvince futhi. And number 10 should be a complete player.
Yeah.
Nuno,
You must have everything.
Short.
Nuno ashort.
Ashort.
No, but it doesn't solve the Rebeiro problem,
Yeah.
which is I feel we need to solve that.
But how do we make up for that?
So here's, I think,
Yeah, I think that's the biggest.
Areda, ne?
Yeah.
So this is what I want us to do. Ne? Ke batla re shaye right now going forward, gore, go my starting lineup, Sundowns. You know, if we set up a team,
Yeah.
how do we set up the team? And going forward, how, you know, badlale jwang? Like, so let's look at the players that they have. Let's set up a team. Gore, maybe we're guys starting lineup somehow. Right now, go down to, and then let's set up the team. Can they actually be successful going forward?
Ooh. In my opinion, I would offer a system, not a formation.
Okay.
And in that system, it differs in and out of position. It would be a back 4, a back 3, sometimes a back 2 with maybe a libero in front of the 2. So I would probably use Utebza more as a 6. But obviously I'd give him certain principles in the game where he has the ability, if we do invert at times, because I like that option, because it makes a lot of sense to me when I have wingers. Sometimes on a 1v1 situation. I was looking at the quality of wingers we have at Sundowns. We've got Umaseko, we've got Umapena. I think we also have Ulitlaku as well as Umas. I feel that Umapena is the one that has the Rebeiro quality, where it's the X factor. You don't need a lot of coaching. You need a player that knows how to decide a game. I feel like that's what we are lacking. We are lacking one or two more players that have the X factor. But I'd probably have the experience of Ukran Keka, and I've always believed that the best centre backs are the ones that have the ability of reading the game.
Yeah.
For me, hey man, World Cup, can I have my best players?
Yeah.
I love Umalubo Ngokoza. I mean, I think he's an exceptional. The future is bright.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't bench Grant Mina for Leandwan.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even bench Ulibusa for that boy. I think he's exceptional. But me, personally speaking, as a South African football lover who wants to do well in AFCON, we need to Grant play.
Yeah.
We need a performing Grant. And I would start to Grant Kekana. Next to him, in my opinion, I start to Ashley Cupido, who I think is what a baller. What do you think is his best quality? Because I've been looking for his. What do you think is his best quality?
I like his ball playing ability, but I also like how he reads the game, Joe. Like,
I think reading the game.
I love centre backs who read the game, Joe.
Do you see? There's a boy from Marumo Galans, Umpo Shabasele. I think so. That's why ball playing for me. I think I need more than that, because we've got so many of them. Kuluman and Damase is also one. I think reading the game.
He's the reader of the game. Yeah.
But also interpreting the game.
Yes.
Because you can read then lack interpretation. I'd have him, and then I'd have Utebza. I'd bring in Umkulis. I mean, for two things, or three things rather. He's got three abilities that I like from an 8, because I believe that the 8 in simple form, not to be too tactical, support the 6 defensively and be there present when we attack. Simple as that. For me, he has the ability of playing a 2-touch deep in the build-up process and in the progressive lines. Only 2-touch and move. And a check run. When he gets into the zone where red zone where we want to go and score in the opponent's half, Upeti combination play is more like an Iniesta, and then when it gets into the final, Tedzokshang step over. Kubangati winger.
Yeah.
So you've got a 3-in-1, Mopetum Kulis as a footballer. So I'd bring in Kulisa into that midfield, in my opinion, and maybe rotate him, no Marcelo Allende, and then I'd play Nuno more as a number 10. And then on the wider areas, that's where the challenge is for me.
Yes.
I feel like we need special players in wider areas. I think that's the difference between us and the Indlemnyama. Is that in Lemnyama, when they come from wide, they look really dangerous, exciting. For me, I'm looking at Matthews when he came into Mamelodi Sundowns, and I love the boy. Yeah. But I said to the boy, you got the best training than most of the South African boys. You got the best development training. You had the resources. For me, when you come into the Betway Premiership, can you show that you're above some of the players we have? That's the biggest criticism we have. Yes. We know he's not a dribbling wizard, he's not a skillful player. But in terms of how he plays, how he carries himself, the impact, the value that he brings into the team, I felt like he could have given us more. He was the one. I think that's why they are playing. So I'm beating around the bush, because I'm genuine. It's tricky, chief. Yeah. You know, because now you've got Umapen. I'd probably start the younger boys, man. I'd give the young boys an opportunity, because they are fearless. You know, and they've got technique. Because if we check out on the right hand side, who sells? Let me say this. I don't have a problem, Naliangweni. I've never had a problem with football players.
Yeah.
And even with coaches. For me, when you come into this country and you're a foreign person, you need to be a Syrian race. It's Naintwana, we are development coaches. We've coached all the levels in South African football. We know we have the potential. When you're a foreign person and you come into South Africa, you need to be a ceiling raiser, whether nutritionist, whether coach.
Yeah.
Let me just say, as a technocrat, because
Fully.
technocrats are players, coaches, nutritionists, football analysts. You're just a specialist, or you're giving expertise on that particular field. For me, you need to be a technocrat if you're a foreigner.
Yeah.
You need to be something that we don't have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And for me, when I watch Usales, I think he's an incredible space player. But I felt like Litlaku can give us more.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I felt like Litlaku can give me more. You know, or I can invest more in Litlaku.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can invest more in Umapena. Because I see Umapena more as really fearless, talent, talent engaka. You know, and you can see how he even moves. He knows. Yeah, he knows. Yeah, he knows. Yeah, to him. So for me, I'd probably give those two young boys an opportunity.
Yeah.
But also, now that I'm thinking about it and I'm having this conversation, if the club or anyone at the club listens to this, I think it's an opportunity for us to invest in 3 more wingers, I think. Because now I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, who are the options?
Yeah.
Who are the options?
It's not as easy, and like the seasons where you can actually, the team writes itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Okay, sharp, ne? So where do we think, Joe, we are a third into the season, and usually we know Downs is going to win the league. What's your prediction? Where do you think this ends up, Mpo?
I'm sticking to what I said. I said we're going to have a proper title race for the first time in a long time, but Sundowns is going to win it at the end. Right? But there's 2 things that worry me about Sundowns. We all know that the best teams going forward, they're very good. Right? But the defensive element, I think people take that for granted. Sundowns won. For me, they've not looked convincing defensively. As you know, they're not as assured as they always have. And I want you to get your expert view on that. But another thing that worries me about Sundowns, right? It's the lack of solutions. I feel like every time they've faced the team this season, and we can talk about Nabi, how he set traps for them, how he pressed them. Remember in that game? There were no solutions. Marumo Gallants with a false 9, whatever they came up with. And for me, that's one thing that's missing, and I just wanted to touch on that. Right? To answer your question, I think there will be a title race, but Sundowns will win the league. Right? But I just want to get your input on those 2 things. The defensively, I'm not convinced with Sundowns. And 2, the lack of options every time they meet like a challenge where a team comes, because teams are learning what Sundowns is doing. It's been years of them dominating.
Yeah.
People are coming up with plans, how to stop Debza from playing, how to do this, how to do that. What is your take on that?
Yeah, actually, credit to the Kaizer Chiefs technical team for that, because it seems like every team now has identified that and he's the progressor in the team. He's the piano carrier. For me, I think Buzila was pendulum poser, to be honest with you. I think Buzila was pendulum, to be honest. Like everything, Joe. Question, you know what I mean? But for me, defensively, I just feel like in football you can't close everywhere.
Yeah.
I think that maybe the only thing is that it's just about reading, interpreting, and anticipating that what is the first point of attack for the opponent that we are playing against. If it is going wide with his Kaizer Chiefs, for example, they like going wide and then playing diagonal balls, right? So that means their first point of attack is wide. So every time when the ball goes wide, we drop the line a little bit deep. I sometimes feel like the line is too high, and we have Umalubeng Okhozo, we've got to Kupi, who are not the quickest. You know, you've got to Opri, who comes and takes into the midfield, Haki touch line. So it defends ya tangalaza. So in that instance, you need players about a recovery run. I feel that that's not Opri's strength. That's not, maybe Cupido is that's his strength. Maybe Umalubongo is not his strength. You know, Umalubongo enjoys defending la. You know, we enjoy her. And then Cupido doesn't mind here and attending a body. Kuliso Mdao also has the ability to say, I don't know line in sick body, but also uncomfortable. You know, Opri, that's not his strength. Opri is zile defender, poker. Pela defending is just poking the ball. Poker, you know.
It takes a fella.
Yeah. So for me, I just feel like it's form based. It's also tactical based. I think it's coaching based as well, where you just study the opponent. if the first point of attack is central, we know that, okay, what profile of fullbacks or wingers or striker do they? If they've got quick wingers, we drop the line a little bit deeper, more especially when we understand and know where is their first point of attack. You know what I mean? So for me, it's always about dealing with aerial balls that come from deep. It's always about picking when to drop the line a little bit deep, because Sundowns wants to play with the high line, and understandably so, because you want to compress that space from the midfield to the forwards. But now you need to understand where's the point of attack for the opponent, so that you can drop that line a little bit deeper. But I don't think that defending, I don't think defending is a conversation. I think creating opportunities is a conversation. Converting, yeah. We need more X factors. I feel that we need more wingers. Okay. We need more wingers at the club.
No, I'm with you there.
Yeah.
Do you think, and I'll tell you why I'm asking this question. This group, they've been exceptional. We all accept it.
Yeah.
Do you think they run the risk of ultimately being underachievers? And I'll tell you why I say that. Because we have seen teams in this country that maybe were not as impressive as Sundowns, especially under Rhulani. They were really impressive.
Yeah.
Right? But when it's all said and done, we've seen teams win trebles in this country. We've seen teams win the champion. We've seen Pito's team, for example. This Sundowns team has been winning basically the league, I think, for the last 3 seasons. They've been winning 1 trophy a season.
Yeah.
Do you think if this special group of players, if they never have a season where they win the league, they win the Champions League, they pick up a domestic cup, do you think they will ultimately, as great as they've been, they could potentially go down as underachievers when you look at the potential they had?
I think they've achieved in that Rhulani season, 2022-2023. I think this group of players achieved what I think a lot of teams will never achieve, in my opinion. I think that the obsession of winning the Champions League, in my opinion, is what's making us not to see the value of the team. Pep Guardiola said something very important. He said, you can't judge me. I'm dominant the entire season in the Premier League, and I'm in the semi-final of the Champions League. And one mistake from Kyle Walker cost me a game, and now I'm a failure. I don't think we need to put coaches into that space. I don't think we need to put football clubs into that space. Football heritage is important. But I will say this, for me, what that group of players have achieved, to win the AFL, to dominate South African football how they dominated South African football, and to reach the semi-final of the Champions League twice without losing. Without losing.
Without losing,
That group of players went to Egypt, Algeria, Morocco, and absolutely dominated position, had the most shots on target, played with swag, with arrogance, Sundowns are bigger on the map. Sometimes success is subjective, in my opinion. And I don't want to compare. Because I don't want to compare teams. But I'm looking at that coach Rhulani team for those two, even prior to Rhulani being the head coach, because we won the treble with him co-coaching with the coach Mangoba. I believe that for me, Mamelodi Sundowns last season was the season to win the Champions League. But we decided to make changes. I felt like football heritage was leading us into that space. When Miguel Cardoso went to the final, I was not surprised, because football heritage was going to make us reach the final at some point. It was quarter-final, semi-final. It was eventually... That's what eventually we're going to win this thing. And for me, this group of players, by them winning EAFL, for me, that was the biggest achievement, in my opinion, and how we won it, competing against the top best 8 clubs in African competition. So for me, it's subjective. Last season, was it a failure? I don't think it was a failure, in my opinion. I don't even think Orlando Pirates season was a failure. For me, when you reach the CAF Champions League final, semi-final, that is success. There is no way you can say a coach is not successful because he hasn't won the Champions League.
Because getting there in getting to the final is
besides, only one team can win. I don't know. I know football is about results. And of course I'm here as an expert, but I need to also speak about how I feel about football. I don't analyze football for results. I focus on performance, and that's what I do on Itiki TV. When I'm there, I always emphasize that my job is not to analyze the result. Because I can always say, good goal from Momabasa, good goal from Ntemi Nkosino, then I go home. No, I'm serious.
Super Sport Blitz,
let's leave that for fans on the ground to be angry. We didn't win the Champions League. Why? And rightfully so. But as an expert, you can't say that's failure. You can't say that's failure, because in that space and in those competitions, it's about the details, about smaller details. And sometimes it's not about who's a better team. Sometimes it's about who performed or who had the will on the day.
Yeah.
You know, so for me, I'm very to judge coaches on winning on or ikile and iraiding. I'm not too convinced, or maybe somebody needs to make me or convince me to say not winning the Champions League is failure. This season, I believe that the mandate of Miguel Cardoso, even last season, Mamelodi Sundowns has to be a team that wins the treble.
Okay.
And I think that's the standard at the football club. Is it a failure if he doesn't win the champion the treble? It's like I said, success is subjective. But if he reaches the semi-final or final of the CAF Champions League, wins the league, wins a domestic trophy, that's success for me.